questions. Why does your team have so many penalties? What's up with the on-field behavior? Why are your players transferring out? All of the same thing. What's up with your coordinator on one side of the ball? Obviously, Alabama being defense, South Carolina being offense. All of the same questions. If you was to play these responses from the coaches and we to put it through some sort of voice modulator so that I don't think anybody knows what Kalen DeBoer sounds like anyway, but if you was to put it through some sort of voice modulator, these questions could be answered on both sides for both teams. So, yes, I am proposing that South Carolina and Alabama are actually twins. Spider-Man meme. Just looking at each other.
Well, that's like I said, I truly do believe what I'm kind of discussing here as it pertains to the earlier than normal kickoff. Now, Alabama's dealt with this, obviously, Central Time, kicking off at 11 a.m., but I do think there is something, because I've seen it, to these early kickoffs, especially coming off of a big loss like that. Now, I mean, it could be the complete opposite, where Alabama comes out and they're spitting nails and they've been in there just clawing at each other and they're ready to come out and claw at somebody else. And maybe it's South Carolina who is not prepared for the earlier than expected kickoff, although your body clock should have you around 12 o'clock for South Carolina. But I am interested to see some element of that. But to your point, to go back, the last 6 quarters for Alabama have not been attractive. Boy, those first 2 quarters against Georgia, to jump out the way that they did, woo, Alabama looked like something else. And then the second 2 quarters, the third and the fourth, and then the last 4 against Diego Pavia, who is growing in fame. I continue to see him pop up on my Twitter timeline multiple times yesterday, and we'll have to address that at some point.
Diego Pavia had an NIL wish list that I saw yesterday. His brands included. We'll come back to this at the end of the hour. His brands included Lululemon, which is interesting.
Huh?
It was in order. It was Dr. Pepper, Lululemon, Ferrari, and Nike, I believe.
Dude, Diego Pavia is all of us living out a dream right now. Like, he is literally like all of us. And I saw this last night, and boy, you talk about coming back down to earth. They're 2 touchdown underdogs to Kentucky this weekend. It's like Vegas is looking at them going, yeah, we see what you did, and doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're not changing our opinion. But we'll get into all of that this morning as we get you up here and get you going. Again, we'll talk a little bit about what exactly Shane Beamer said as it pertains to the actual game on Saturday. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about this Bengali Kamara situation, who yesterday enters the transfer portal. I don't know if he did it at his own will. I don't know if this is something. It's really an interesting situation. Welcome to college football 2024, Preston Thorne, with what Shane Beamer had to say about Bengali Kamara.
Sounds like both sides made a decision, which everybody should have the opportunity to make their own decisions.
We'll get into that a little bit again, because this also, as you just mentioned, Spider-Man meme, this literally just did happen at Alabama.
Same team.
Earlier this week.
Same team.
So we'll have to get into that a little bit as we go through the morning. Last night, NHL got started.
Okay.
Yay.
What is it called? Opening puck?
Opening night.
Opening night? Okay.
Yeah, opening night. Opening night. Kind of, I guess, similar to the NFL when they do that Thursday night, just one game. But St. Louis, 3-2 over Seattle. If you were a gambling addict and you had that one, Seattle was actually favored. Florida, 6-4 as they open up their defense of their championship in Utah. The Utah Hockey Club. We need more clubs in professional sports. The Utah, who's originally the Phoenix Coyotes, they relocated. They're now in Utah, and Utah wins 5-2 over poor Jen's Chicago Blackhawks, who are destined, it appears, for hopefully your start to 2025 is not built around the Chicago Blackhawks, based on what I've been reading.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's going to be.
Did you ever get into the Blackhawks? Like, just kind of, did you ever, on the peripheral, get into the Blackhawks?
A little bit. Not drastically, because I'm not just a big hockey fan. But, I was excited to go past the stadium a couple years ago, or the rink, whatever you call it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Roenick. Chris Chelios.
There, look at this guy.
Ed Belfour.
There, look at this guy. He comes out.
Can we just play another game
There you go.
We're just going to start the show with Preston naming names from random teams.
I like that. And you just hockey, which I had a Blackhawks jersey. I had an aunt and uncle who
Good
lived
jersey.
I had an aunt and uncle who
sweater.
sweater. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
it's a beautiful
nice
logo.
sweater.
This was more
Nice
of like
sweater.
this was unfortunately more of like a jersey. It wasn't the sweater. It was kind of like I want to say the knockoff, but it didn't have anybody on the back, just the Blackhawk on the
Like
front.
Chevy Chase in in Christmas Vacation.
Nice sweater.
Yeah, but but hockey going last night, but probably more importantly to a lot of y'all, Major League Baseball last night, and it started with the Mets just romping all over the Phillies with grimaces throughout the stadium. Did you catch any of that last night?
Yes. I also saw a video of Grimace getting on the subway. Very interesting. I don't know how we got here, but apparently the Mets are actually going to make this thing work.
7-2 last night. Mets take the lead in the series 2-1. But maybe if you're able to stay up, if you are able to make it, maybe the more entertaining series is going to be the West Coast series, where last night the Padres take down the Dodgers 6-5 last night. A lot of the action in the first 3 innings. All you had to do was make it into about 10:30 last night. The Padres put up 6 in the second. The Dodgers had 1 in the first and 4 in the third, and there was no more scoring after that, which made it even crazier. So if you liked intense pitching, you got it from the 4th through the 9th. There is the Padres hold on 6-5 and take a 2-1 lead in that series.
Well, I'm holding a transfer ticket for my bandwagon, and if the Padres happen to win this series, I'll just be moving to the other side of that track.
I'll just start bringing in Austin to do the show with random teams that you're on the bandwagon, the Vikings, the Padres. Because I think he jumped on the Padres bandwagon. And it's funny when your child is like young, he's 12, as I've repeated, that he always, when he goes to the we reference and you just kind of snare, you're like, we? When did all of a sudden the Padres become we?
Hey, man, they hitting bombs, man.
When I was about 7, I think, all of a sudden I had to be a Padres fan. I have no idea why, but my parents indulged it. I even got a hat, and for a brief time, I was a Padres fan. But yeah, so
I think it's the
See,
awful colors. Their colors and the uniforms were so bad that you're like, I think I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
since
don't
they
know
brought
what
the
it was.
Browns back, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So bad it's cool.
Yeah. So Padres win last night 6-5 there in San Diego to again, they go up 2-1. So you actually had some pretty interesting stuff last night there in terms of professional sports. College football, as we mentioned, is in the midst of I think we're at 52 days now. 52 more straight days of some kind of football, whether it be college or NFL, throw in high school with it, but college is taking over the Friday night. And last night, Jamie Chadwell's Liberty Flames had to hold on for dear life in overtime to knock off Florida International, who at one point this year lost to well-known football powerhouse Monmouth.
Yeah, I did know that actually. They lost to them. Yeah, and FIU had the big thing. They unveiled the Miami Vice uniforms, and a lot was going on. They didn't wear them that game, but they unveiled them. A lot was happening. You remember FIU from earlier in the year with Pitbull Stadium.
Yep.
I guess it's not going well.
It's not, but they fell 2-4. But yeah, Liberty last night, 31-24 over Florida International. Well, that's your kind of look around at what sports was last night. You had really the really good game in Major League Baseball. The Mets and the Phillies was very entertaining for kind of all the wrong reasons. But you had the Mets just sticking it to the Phillies last night. Hockey got going in, a little bit of college football. Speaking of college football, there'll be another game tonight. Again, as I mentioned, 50 some odd consecutive days. Tonight, look, this is kind of a testament, Preston, to just us loving college football. Basically making any game just like, yeah, okay, I'll tune into that. For example, tonight, New Mexico State at the Fighting Rich Rodriguez's. Jacksonville State tonight. So
Gamecocks.
Maybe Gamecocks. So maybe you tune into that just to see, look at that Rich Rodriguez offense. I wonder if he wants to just be an offensive coordinator somewhere. Who knows? 803-404-6100. We'll actually get into South Carolina here coming up in the next segment. We'll talk about what Shane Beamer said, and we'll get Preston's opinion. Fixing the penalty issues. That's something that does have to change. But, Preston, if you've done it 3 years straight, how fixable is it? Doesn't sound like it's a player's issue when it's been 3 years straight.
Good question.
We'll get into Preston's thoughts on that. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. I forgot what day it was. I was gonna say on a. I was like, We are about 48 hours away from the Gunner family packing up and heading to Tuscaloosa for the football game this weekend. And no tailgating trip is complete without a first stop by Old Timey Meat Market. I got a feeling there'll be some of those delicious cheddar burgers coming along, probably some chicken wings, maybe even a few of their homemade hot dogs for the tailgating trip this weekend. And for you, if you're not going, you know what? You can still go by, and you should go by Old Timey Meat Market. 3 locations: St. Andrews Road in Irmo, the South Congaree store, or the Lexington store. One of the reasons that I absolutely adore Old Timey Meat Market is because they've made it a non-grocery store meat buying experience. The butchers there want to know your name. They want to know what you personally like. They want to know about your family. That way, when you walk in the door at one of those 3 locations, they can recommend whatever you might like, whether it's steak, whether it's pork, whether it's chicken, whether it's fish. Old Timey Meat Market has you covered. Visit one of their 3 locations: South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, or the Lexington store. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Looks like we do have one accident to let you know about this morning, and that's I-77 southbound at Percival Road. 78 for the high today, overnight low of 58. Tomorrow, 76, overnight low of 48. And Friday, 74, that overnight low of 46. But beautiful weather to kick off the South Carolina State Fair. Right now, it is currently not too bad. It's a little cooler than it was yesterday, 57 on the early game.
Let you know, yesterday we were at Northside Baptist Church in Lexington collecting and teaming up with the community partners as we are launching the Hurricane Helene relief effort for families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. Today, we'll be at 12 Springs Community Church. That's 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington from 9 to 6 p.m., 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you can please come and join us in supporting families impacted by the recent disaster. The collection drive is scheduled from yesterday through tomorrow of this week. And again, today we are at 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Please, please, please help and join and bring non-perishable items such as canned foods, bottled water, diapers, wipes, pet food, toiletry, and feminine hygiene products. Again, we'll be at 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington today from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Hopefully you can stop by and help out. Again, as 107.5 The Game is teaming up with community partners, launching the Hurricane Helene relief efforts for families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. 803-404-6100 if you want to text in this morning. Is one of the things that are kind of interesting, Preston, is trying to correct mistakes, trying to correct errors and penalties. In South Carolina now, I think it's pretty clear. I don't think I'm going over the top and being ridiculous. When we look at the last 3 years, and South Carolina has ranked outside the top 100, 105th, 117th, 119th in penalties committed per game. Again, 3 years ago it was 105th. Last year was 117th. Now South Carolina sits at 119th. As a former football player, as a guy who has been in those locker rooms, has been in those meetings, has been through those practices, where does this come from? I mean, it feels like this is not on players. It feels like this is on coaches and not being disciplinarians enough.
Well, the old coaching phrase is you either coach it or you allow it. And that's what every coach every coach worth of salt I've ever been around, you operate by that phrase. Either you coach it or you allow it. So either you coach it out of them when it happens, stop practice, address it, put in corrective measures, or you just allow it to happen and think, oh, it's good. Well, that's not going to happen on Saturday. Or you make an excuse for them, or you don't figure out what's happening. But you either coach it or you allow it. And there seems to be a trend, a 3-year trend with plenty of data points now to feel like this team is undisciplined and they are penalty. They are a team that commits a lot of penalties.
Is it? All right, number one.
A lack of focus on this potential. You might be focused on running schemes, or you may be focused on formations, or you may be focused on doing some of these these higher level things. And when you're trying to do that, you may say, let's not really worry about that. For instance, South Carolina has had several offensive pass interference calls this year. That's not just happening on Saturday. That's happening throughout the week when they're running the plays. But when it happens throughout the week, the coaches don't say anything because they either think that maybe the referees won't call it, or we need to run the next play, or it's not that big of a deal. And so when it happens during the week, you don't address it. And then on Saturday when it happens, you act like I've never seen this before. And that's just not the case.
Let's listen. This is Shane Beamer yesterday during his press conference. He talks about fixing penalty issues within the team and obviously moving forward. Here's what he had to say yesterday regarding the fixing penalty issues.
Yeah, it's a combination of things. The ones that bother me, obviously, are the pre-snap and post-snap. Penalties, do we want to be the least penalized team in the SEC? Absolutely. Does that mean that if you're the least penalized team, you're going to win? No. I'm sure you guys are aware because y'all do y'all's analysis and breakdowns and studies of our penalties. So I'm sure you guys are aware that last season, the 3 most penalized teams in the SEC had 31 wins between them. 2 of them won 11 games, and the other one won 9 games. And they were the 3 most penalized teams in the SEC. And the least penalized team didn't go to a bowl game last season. So you're exactly right, and I'm exactly right. The penalties make me sick. The penalties are going to happen. It's the pre-snap penalties that make you want to throw up. And it's the post-snap penalties that we had on Saturday that we can't have. And The last one of those I'll remember that a player had, maybe I'm wrong, was at East Carolina. My second game as the head coach over on our sideline. We got a taunting penalty. So we've been good with the post-snap. It's the pre-snap where we got to be better. You understand that some penalties are going to happen. Some penalties get called that probably aren't good calls. But what we try and do is in practice emphasize technique, where when we're doing any kind of blocking drill, we're screaming and yelling, get our hands inside. Today, we've done this all along, but we did a whole lot of, as you can imagine, in practice today, so our defense doesn't jump. Not that we're all of a sudden starting that this week. We've been doing that as long as I've been the head coach here, but we clearly haven't done a good enough job of it. We show video of penalties. Here's why this is a penalty. Torian Gray in front of the whole team. Here's a pass interference penalty. So we all hear, what's the technique that we need to play with right here so we don't get this penalty. Lonnie Teasley, hey, we got a holding penalty right here. What are we teaching right now so everybody's on the same page about what the penalty is? So we're looking at ways to emphasize it better. It's too many. You realize that penalties are going to happen. But to answer your question, I think it's just constantly educating, holding guys accountable, which we do, whether it be pre-snap, post-snap, during the snap, and then just really just trying to emphasize and teach better than we have over throughout the week, meetings and practice. So hope that answers your question. I'm sorry.
I want you guys to jump.
Jen snuck in the studio behind us. No clue what was going to happen. Has a notebook.
It's kind of what happens too.
And just, all right.
Yeah, they're going on sound instead of sight. That's not supposed to be happening. The key thing everybody knows from Pee Wee League on is to watch the ball. So even doing the hard counts, it does not matter. So yes, okay, cool. And again, this is not rocket science. If he was to say, all right, this coach is in the SEC, he's at the top of his profession, and his solution is, we're going to make sounds today. Come on, man. We got to do better than that. We can do more.
Number one, I don't know if I understood him correctly, but he said they've had no post-play penalty since East Carolina, where there was a taunting, probably Cam Smith.
It's a good chance.
Did he block out Dylan Stewart?
No, I think he was saying to shoot him some bail here. That was, I think he was saying aside from this game.
Okay, all right.
In between this game.
Okay, that would make sense. I didn't think he did, but I wasn't sure really how that worked. Look, I get holding penalties happen. Preston, you being a defensive lineman, will probably tell you there's a holding on every play. Those offensive linemen, they just grab you and they hold you, and you can call it on every play. And those referees are offensively biased and don't allow defensive linemen to get to the quarterback. I do kind of understand holding penalties in a game. I understand one offsides kind of per game. Kyle Kennard's been on a run of several the last few games. But it just, again, here's the thing, and I don't know what to make of his stat that the three most penalized teams won 31 games.
Yeah, and Shane, don't gaslight us again, man, because don't accuse the people in the media of doing their job and looking up statistics, because we did look up our statistics. And for the last 3 years, you have been outside of the top 100 as far as penalties concerned. And I don't know what the difference is between your teams and those teams that you claimed win a lot of games, but apparently you can't do what they're doing. So you might want to stop.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that the most penalized teams have won a lot of games, but you ain't them. So don't do it.
I didn't particularly care for that comment, because if you were going to bowls, or if you were winning games, you're right, we wouldn't say anything.
But you're not.
You win 28-27. You beat LSU in overtime. We don't say anything about 13 penalties. You win this past weekend 28-27. You know what we're talking about? We're talking about Mississippi and how awful they are for faking injuries. 803-404-6100. They've got to. It's a part of losing. It's the razor-thin margin for error that you have in a football game. And some of those penalties are absolutely. Then, when the other team commits a penalty, it's probably also a good idea to take the penalty. And I did hear his explanation for it, but still, you brought up a good point. Maybe that's a Pete Limbo thing where Pete Limbo was able to step in previous seasons and go, hey, they're about to be 2nd and 17. Not real a reason to make it 1st and 20. 803-404-6100. I'll get back to the text lines as well. I see Josh on the phone line. We'll get to you when we come back. You're listening to the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with your insurance company to take away the headache. Yes, they will come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out and take care of it for you. Now, if you're looking to increase the value of your home with new windows or mirrors, Absolute Glass will come out and take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. We say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Bluff Road at I-77 appears we have an accident there. Also, I-26 eastbound before exit 125. It's that old Sandy Run Road exit. And I-77 southbound at Percival. Also a slowdown due to an earlier accident. 78, that's going to be our high today. Increasing clouds and an overnight low of 58. Tomorrow, 76 for the high. Overnight low of 48. 74 on Friday, 46 overnight. So a few mornings where you're going to definitely want to make sure you have that jacket with you. The weekend should be nice, really. About 80, 83 throughout the weekend, so pretty decent there. But currently 57 on 107.5 The Game.
Reminder, Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest. Just go to 1075thegame.com and get registered. If South Carolina scores a special teams touchdown this weekend, you can pocket up to $600. That's $100 in the pot each and every week. It's game 6. Nobody's done a special teams touchdown. Therefore, this weekend is $600. If South Carolina scores a special teams touchdown this coming weekend and you're registered, you will win you could win $600. We'll have a drawing for that. Go to 1075thegame.com to enter in the drawing. And if you have already entered, good news, you're still in the drawing. If you have not, go ahead and head over to 1075thegame.com and get registered. It's the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest right now. Let's get out to the phone lines where Josh has waited very patiently. Josh, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Better than I deserve to be.
Okay.
You know, I just want to throw it down for Bill, Preston, and Jen. I mean, let's just break it down. Beamer made it clear we had some breakdowns, within the offense and the defense, but our discipline is what it really boils down to. And we can celebrate doing things good, winning's hard. South Carolina, we did great against the other teams facing up, but the truth is that I know we have a lot of true freshmen on the field, but coming off of the half, I mean, it's about discipline is what it really boils down to. Drop passes, penalties, that is a huge thing. And I don't want to sound negative because I'm a longtime supporter of Carolina sports all the way across the field, every single one. But, I mean, what are we going to do? Because Williams-Brice Stadium was built to win. And we're built to win. And, I feel like we're getting, am I still on the line?
Oh, yeah, we're still listening.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I was getting a beeping from somebody. I apologize. I feel like, Williams-Brice Stadium was built for us to win. And, I don't want to hear excuses, but I feel like, I mean, you guys y'all are young, but I feel like Beamer, I mean, not to sound negative, Beamer was essentially like a Sparky Woods hire. Are y'all familiar with Sparky Woods?
Oh, yeah. Sparky Rock.
So I feel like we're in that same situation. Excuses. Okay. Yeah, defensive. Yes. Discipline. I mean, it really boils down to like 3 phases. Discipline. I mean, we're good on the training. We're good on the recruiting. I feel like it's. I do have a question at the end of this, but
all right. We need you to get to the question. We need you to go ahead and get to the question.
Well, Preston, I followed you since you were a freshman. So since you were in Somerville, so I can. All right. I guess the question is, so what do we do? I think Beamer needs to go.
All right. Appreciate your call. Appreciate your time. That was a statement. And you're entitled to your statement about Beamer needing to go, and that's fine. But I think what we need to do is we've kind of outlined it is that the phrase is you either coach it or you allow it, and they need to pay more attention to details and those things during the times when they have practice.
All right. James, you get to follow that. James, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
How are y'all?
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll preface this by saying I actually love when we brought in Lonnie Teasley. I think he's done a heck of a job on the recruiting trail. I see it on Twitter all the time that he needs to go, and I don't 100% agree with that, but it's getting to the point now where you look at the offensive line stats and pressures that we're allowing for 2 years now. I know our guys are young and it will get better with time, but at the same time, it's one thing if Sean Elliott was on staff. You go back to the last time Sean Elliott was here, we look at 2014 year, and obviously we did not play as well as we wanted, but he ultimately turned in Corey Robinson, Brandon Shelley to bookend tackles. A lot of that was schemed up. I mean, that A&M opener, they were not great in that game. By the end of the season, O-line was a strength for us. I think there's got to be some role he can play in just working with this O-line. I think that's would make a huge difference for us. But I'll take your guys' thoughts on that. Appreciate you guys taking my call.
I would assume, to what extent, and Preston, maybe you can weigh in on this, I assume Sean Elliott has some say in how the offensive line is kind of scheming up, blocking a little bit, but I'm sure that it's still maybe more than 70-75% Lonnie Teasley's gig. I don't know if you want to weigh in on that. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. This is what we've talked about all year. When you talk about the delegation of duties, we don't know who's responsible for what. We understand that what their position titles are, but we don't know exactly who's responsible for what, whether that's in the play calling, the designing, or the blocking and execution. So that's not something that we actually know. But you did hit on a point. Lonnie Teasley has been successful in bringing in and gathering talent. Obviously, the next step is to coach that talent up.
Let's get one more in here. Michael wants to weigh in this morning. Michael, how you doing? What's on your mind?
What up, guys? Good morning.
Morning.
Shane Beamer has been here for 4 years, and every year we have had a bad offensive line, just like the last guy mentioned. To me, it just doesn't make any sense to have the same issues since he first got here. I understand if the problem is the players, get your players in, that's fine. But every year we have had an opportunity to recruit, bring in transfers. He keeps telling us, this year our offensive line should improve, and it's the same. I just don't understand. If we are able to run the ball against Ole Miss, it's a whole different ball game. And I just don't understand why this continues to be a problem. And I'm kind of scared because Shane Beamer doesn't like to make changes. So it's like, is this going to be changed? Is he going to hire the correct people or put people in the correct place to do the things that's going to allow us to succeed? And as far as Dow, I've been a Dow supporter ever since he got here. I like the things he's done, but I'm over him at this point because it just doesn't make sense of what kind of game plan he was scheming up against Ole Miss. We were down 20, and we're still running zone reads and play action. Like what are we doing? Like, just a couple weeks ago, we seen how Georgia was down 20, and Kirby was like, bump it, let it rip. Why didn't we do that? We're down 20. Like, why are we still running the same offense we're running in the first quarter? That just doesn't make sense to me. And you have a freshman quarterback. Draw up some plays that's going to allow him to get into a groove, throw some screen passes, do something. It's the same thing over and over. He never adjusted. If you're going to have this type of game plan going forward, it's not going to work, and it needs to be changed. And like I said, I'm just scared that Beamer is going to make that change because after he hired Dow, he went on this whole rant about how he made the right hire. But now he didn't. And so now I feel like he's kind of scared to come out and say, yeah, I messed up. You feel me? So I don't know how this is going to be corrected. I'm behind Shane Beamer 100%, but I'm just scared that he's too loyal. He's not going to make the right changes he needs for this program. Thank y'all for listening.
Yep. Thank you for the phone call, Michael. We'll hit a break. We'll come back. We'll address all that. Got another phone call. Is it Monday? I'm fine with what y'all are saying. I have no problem. Where was this on Monday? I thought we would be doing this on Monday, not Wednesday. But y'all are good. I appreciate all three of y'all with the phone calls. We'll get to David when we come back as well, and we'll address what Michael said. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. 6:49 on a Wednesday morning. Get up and get going here. Reminder coming up tomorrow night. 6 o'clock right here, 107.5 The Game, 100.3 in Myrtle Beach. You can catch Carolina Calls with Shane Beamer and Todd Ellis and hear what exactly they have to say as we get you ready for Alabama and South Carolina. Saturday, noon Eastern time, 11 Central time over in Tuscaloosa. And coming up in the next hour, we'll get a little bit into that Bengali Kamara situation, as well as I want Preston's thoughts a little bit on just for a player, kind of the mindset. You talk about it sitting around your hotel room for a big night game or however else anything might go. But then versus, I guess, having to get up, I don't know, very early, go through your breakfast line, and then get over to the stadium and just go play. And then, I'm interested to hear your take on that, and we'll do a lot of that coming up in the next hour. 803-404-6100. Back out to the phone lines we go. David wants to weigh in this morning. David, how you doing? What's on your mind?
I'm doing all right. Guys, I appreciate what y'all doing for Western Carolina, North Carolina. I came back over the weekend from doing storm response there, and it's horrific. I hope y'all indulge me because doing the storm work, I did not get a chance to see the game, but I had a question for Preston. The fake punt play, Beamer said they've been working on that since August, and it concerns me a little bit if you're going to run a play like that, why you have guys that's like 206, 230, and 250 when you're giving up 50, 70 pounds per man. Preston, if you were going to do a play, why wouldn't you use, if you've been practicing it since August, why wouldn't you practice it with bigger personnel? Appreciate what y'all do, and thanks again.
Well, first of all, appreciate your service, appreciate you helping all of that. As everybody, as I've stated, it's going to be a long recovery process. So appreciate everybody contributing, but we're gonna have to contribute for a long time. On to the football aspect of it. The premise of the play is broken because it's based on trying to surprise the other team, and so the reason why they weren't able to have the appropriate personnel is because you want to try and send out the same personnel as if you were punting. And so it's based on you trying to catch them off guard. But as Shane stated, and as I stated on Monday, once you figure out that you're not catching them off guard, then there has to be a plan B. And where the plan failed was that they didn't catch them in a situation where Mississippi was on their heels. They were dug in, ready to go, and South Carolina never adjusted to that. So the crux of the play was that we're supposed to surprise you, but once we figure out we can't surprise you, there should have been an adjustment after that.
I just go back. If you're going to go for it in that situation, and Preston, the way you kind of worded it and talked about and thorns, buds, and roses, fake punts. What was all the fakes you hate?
Well, the fake injuries.
Fake injuries, all the fakes. I do agree. It's almost like as fans, we should have our own analytics chart, and if it's 2 yards or less, don't fake it. Line up with if you're going to go for it, line up with your offense and go get the yard. And again, say what you want. South Carolina was averaging 3.5 yards per carry. They only had to go 1.5 yards. By the way, it was not less than a yard. That's the other part of it. It was not less than a yard. It was about 1.5 yards. South Carolina wasn't running the ball great. Let's be clear about that. They also weren't running the ball bad. They were getting the yardage necessary to run 3 runs and get a first down by a half yard. But the bottom line is, especially coming off the play prior, and I'll say having the weapons that you have, and by weapons I mean a quarterback that can run to where the defense, if you line up, I don't know if I'd have been in favor of lining up in the shotgun with I would have. I don't trust that line getting a push right up the gut on a quarterback sneak against that defensive line. As I'm talking myself back through this again for the 29th time in 72 hours. Line up in the shotgun. You got a quarterback can go one way, a running back can go another way. You got a lot of options. You can spread the field. Now, this is being creative, and I know right now that's not necessarily what's happening. Spread the field completely wide. and open things up to get a yard and a half. If that's what you want to do, which I'm not even sure I'd have been in favor of that, to be dead honest. I'd have just assumed punt it, and let your defense try to get another stop, keep a crowd in it.
And for David, the defense before the fake punt, the defense was coming off a 3-and-out, in which they were very much on Ole Miss. So, yeah, I mean, and Shane said it. Shane said it was a bad call. I've said it. We all said it. We all know it. But his main complaint, or his main thing that he reflected on, was saying that he should have called timeout and addressed, and probably just went back to punting, but he didn't do it.
And we'll come back to this a little bit the next hour if we get a chance, because there's a clip from yesterday in which Shane Beamer talks about learning from that, talks about the fake punt. We'll try and get back into that next hour to just readdress that. Again, I know a lot of you are ready to call in now, and with your anger from Saturday. You held it for Monday and Tuesday, so keep calling. We'll keep taking phone calls, 803-404-6100. But coming up, we'll get into a little bit of a special segment. I'm interested to hear this. A special segment from the early game. Are you prepared, Jen? It's a special segment.
I'm intrigued.
We're all intrigued. You should be intrigued. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, First Palmetto Bank. Again, I've mentioned this before. Jacob Crowder helped me several years ago, so I know just the way he works, the way he does things, how comfortable he makes you feel. Because let's be honest, purchasing a home, it's a huge decision. You want to make sure you get the absolute best interest. You want to make sure that you've got the absolute best deal, whether it's a 15-year fixed mortgage, a 30-year fixed mortgage, whatever the interest rate and APR may be. And that's why you need to go with the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. And right now they have the Community Reinvestment product. Now, you need to call and you need to get more information on this. 803-719-1005. That's how you can reach Jacob Crowder. But if you're looking to move to Richland County, you've got to get more information, because right now they are offering a 4.99% interest with a 5.075 APR on a 30-year fixed mortgage. For more information, call Jacob Crowder today. Tell him Bill Gunner sent you. 803-719-1005.
Hope you're having a good morning if you are already making your way into work or to school. Bluff Road at I-77, an area you might want to watch out for. An accident has been reported. Also, I-26 eastbound before Old Sandy Run Road. That would be exit 125. And then I-77 southbound at Purcellville Road, an accident there. 78 is going to be our high today, 76 tomorrow. Tomorrow night into Friday morning, looking for an overnight low of 48. Friday's high 74, that overnight low of 46. And we'll be anywhere between 79 and 83 for the remainder of the weekend. So it should be pretty decent. 57 currently on the early game.
$7 a.m. as we get you up and get you going. And again, I want to remind you this morning, we will be at 12 Springs Community Church today, 5236 in Lexington. 107.5 The Game is teaming up with community partners who are launching a Hurricane Helene relief effort for families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. Please join us in supporting these families impacted by the recent disaster. The collection drive is scheduled. It is today and tomorrow. We also did it yesterday, but today and tomorrow. Please bring to 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Please bring non-perishable items such as canned food, bottled water, diapers, wipes, pet food, toiletries, feminine hygiene products. You can bring those to our drive, 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Thank you so much for being a part of that and helping us out. Again, it's 107.5 The Game teaming with the community partners for launching the Hurricane Helene relief effort for the families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. And certainly as we have the Weather Channel on and hear thoughts and prayers down there on the Gulf Coast there with Tampa, Sarasota, Fort Myers, who appear to be in direct line for Hurricane Milton. I will admit, I am a storm guy, and watching this thing go up and down, Preston, I think this is a sign of me getting older, but watching the intensity of this hurricane has been incredible, and thoughts and prayers there. I've got a good buddy that lives down. We got actually a lot of good friends that live down in the Tampa area. I was down in Longboat Key this past summer, just off the coast of Sarasota, and beautiful area. But man, thoughts and prayers with those people because that's about to be affected every bit as much, if not more. And so a lot going on this hurricane season.
And just watching the development of it and like how pristine the eye of this storm is, it's
scary.
It is scary. That's really the only thing I can say. And like you, I have several friends. I don't have them in the Tampa area, but I've got them on either side, like Fort Myers Beach, and that was a family place for years. It's very sad just to watch this coming.
Yeah,
I just keep thinking, is there a last minute turn it can make? It's not, but.
Yeah, the only thing is the last minute turn is going to turn into somebody.
Well, yeah.
So somebody's going to be affected by it.
It's going, it's so thoughts and prayers for those people in that line. I will say, fascinating. Yesterday there was a Twitter/X video of the hurricane plane, the planes that they send through the hurricane, and it was showing the turbulence that they had going through those things. And it's, I don't know if fascinating is the right word to use for this, but it's crazy right now again. But just again, as we got into talking that with this again, we will be at 12 Springs Community Church in 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington today, because certainly want to help the relief efforts there in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. So you can come out donate non-perishable items, canned foods, bottled water, diapers, wipes, pet food, toiletry, feminine hygiene products, and we're going to make sure these people up in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg get them. So, again, 12 Springs Community Church today, 5236, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. today. Preston's got a special segment. He doesn't tell us about these things. He just lines them up, and then I get really excited because I never know where we're going to go. So take it away, big fella.
Well, you know how this is, man. You know how we you know what this is. This is the early game. You know what we like to do. We like to have a lot of fun on this show. We like to talk. We like to make fun of things, talk about food, music, all those types of things. But just like in Saved by the Bell, just like in Family Matters, sometimes there comes the time for a very special segment. And this is our very special segment of the early game. This is a very special segment. No, Jesse's not going to be taking too many Adderall or anything like that.
I'm so excited.
We're not going to do that. But we are going to be finally addressing the Dylan Stewart conversation. We've kind of skirted around it. We talked about it from the football issue, gave it a little bit of time to breathe. It was the unfortunately got a lot of negative national attention on Dylan Stewart's unsportsmanlike celebration for pantomiming a shotgun blast, pantomiming murder on the field. So let's have to call it for what it is. It was completely out of line as a celebration. But Shane addressed it yesterday during his press conference. And I want to listen to Shane address it, and then we could talk about it.
Dylan Stewart feels awful about that play. Dylan Stewart's a really good kid. And Dylan Stewart's mom feels awful about that play. And she was obviously very emotional after the game. And I know all the social media angels that have never done anything wrong want me to just tar and feather him out there in the middle of 5 points for his mistake. It doesn't quite work that way. Was he held accountable in this building? Yes. Was there punishment within this building for what he did? Yes. But we care about Dylan. We love Dylan, and we got Dylan's back too. A lot of people don't, but the people in this building have his back, and he knows he needs to be better, and it was unacceptable without a doubt. But he's a young kid that got caught up in the emotions. There's a lot. I'm not excusing it at all. There's a lot of things that built up before that play. Some back and forth that started in the first quarter. And in the end, he let his emotions get the best of him and did something he can't do. And, we try and educate him and also realize he's a, 18-year-old young man, and he's ours, and it's our job to help him just like a parent would do with a child when a child makes a mistake in a lot of ways. But certainly we've talked about as a team, though, that there's a right way and there's a way that we want to handle ourselves on the field and the class that we want to play with. And if something repeatedly happens, then there's something you have the decisions to make. But, we feel good about how we've handled that situation.
So that was Shane. That was Shane addressing the issue. I thought Shane did a very good job of addressing the issue, and I think he brings it to the point of, I've said this before. I've made this the statement before. I spent a majority of my career working with young people from the ages of 15 to 20, and I can unequivocally say they are all stupid, and they will all make very stupid mistakes. They will do dumb things. They will disappoint themselves, because they are learning and growing. That doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable. That doesn't mean you don't punish them. That doesn't mean they can't face the consequences for their actions. But as Shane said, I do think sometimes we might lose sight of that idea that, and I say this with all the love in my heart, they are awesome, but they are dumb. And they will do very, very dumb things, whether that's because they get caught up in the emotion, whatever that means, or they're just following a trend or whatever the case is. But it's the adult's responsibility to step in and not let it happen again. So it can happen once.
Yep.
But if it continues to happen, then you have an issue. And so I thought Shane did a solid job of addressing that. We don't know what they did, and we don't know how they addressed it. And my last point about that is the reason why it's so bad is because we don't know who Dylan Stewart is. We don't know if he's a good kid. Unfortunately, the lasting image is of him pointing a shotgun at a quarterback. So we don't get the benefit. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt, and that's why you can't do unequivocally dumb celebrations like that. We understand that he's a good kid, but Nobody else would get that opportunity with him doing those types of things. And that's just something you'll have to understand.
I think you summed it up. Kids do dumb things. They get caught up in a culture, online culture, off-field culture, whatever. You do. Look, I watched Mateen Cleaves do two things when he was at Michigan State. And I didn't like Michigan State. One, he did a throat slash. Guess who picked up on the throat slash as a 15 or 16-year-old high school player?
Mm-hmm.
And I throat slashed my way through a couple basketball camps.
Mm-hmm.
Mateen Cleaves also hit a shot, I think, in the national championship game. Again, I liked Mateen Cleaves. I didn't like Michigan State. But he pretended to take the knife and put it in the heart and did it. And so anytime I could be in a pickup game, because I knew if I'd have done it in front of Bailey Harris, I'd have never left the locker room
Which
again.
is the point.
But here's the thing that bothers me about Dylan Stewart and when kids do this, because it's not just him. You're down 27-3.
Well, there's that.
You're getting your tail whipped. Make the tackle, go back to the huddle. I don't even mind that it was 3rd and 6 and it should have been 4th down. You're down 27-3. I don't know. There was something about me growing up. I can only speak for me. I can't speak for other athletes, you or anybody else. When you're getting your tail whipped, as was happening, get the heck off of the pile, go back to the huddle, or go back to the sideline, and then celebrate. And if you want to jump around for a second and celebrate behind the play, fine. But you keep that celebration limited. And as a person who's watched a lot of AAU basketball, and I don't know 7-on-7 football quite as well or whatever, but I don't get kids that in AAU basketball, they hit a 3 down 30 and then turn and talk trash to the kid they just hit the 3 in front of. And in this situation, that's what I don't get. That bothers me more. They'll correct. Look, as you said, kids do dumb things in the moment that they've seen somewhere, and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But, and I can kind of, again, as long as it doesn't happen again, I'm okay with that. It's the fact that you did it down 24 when you have absolutely no business celebrating.
Well, yeah, and I think that's part of addressing and when people start throwing, coded words like, they have a culture problem or things like that, but addressing like, we want to win. And so if what you're doing is not helping us to win, then there's really no reason for us to be. Winners don't do that.
Right.
That's something that losers celebrate, making a play when you're losing in a game like that. So, yeah, I do agree with that. Jen, you had something? Or I just
no,
but that
was basically the same thing, is that there really wasn't a place for it. There's never a place for it, but especially when you're kind of getting your backside handed to you, then you're really not celebrating. You should be focused on, man, we made a good play. That was good. We're build on momentum and stop that. But
and I say that because I highly doubt that we'll never see Dylan Stewart or another South Carolina player perform that gesture again. What I almost am willing to bet that we'll see again is a defensive back make a player a breakup on a pass down 4 touchdowns, or a defensive lineman make a sack and then celebrate when you're down 4 touchdowns. That's the part that bothers me more, because I don't think that will change. That's what you got to change. When you're down, stop. I don't know if Lou Holtz, if y'all ever, I think we all, because it was kind of iconic, remember Troy Williamson, what he went somersaulting into the end zone in the Virginia game where he caught a 99 yards and somersault. That was actually a cool play. And we all remember Lou Holtz grabbing him by the face mask and having a word of Lou Holtz prayer with him.
Yeah. And that was my, in the moment, there probably should have been a little bit more of that from the coaching staff. There should have been an immediate correction, because they're, again, not to make the same comparison, but it's kind of like your puppy. If they do something, you have to address it immediately, because if you address it later, it kind of, I don't know, that's not a thing. So hopefully they said it's been addressed. It's been addressed. My thing is just that for as Shane said, for everybody who was, and myself included, always remember, yes, young adults, and I would like to put it in very plain language, the best ones are dumb. They will do dumb things. It's our job as adults to make sure that we're guiding them and correcting them so that they don't continuously do dumb things or things that will permanently mess up their future.
And look, Alabama has done as bad or worse over the last 2 weeks.
And honestly, okay, that was a bad gesture, no question. But at least we ain't in Georgia where stuff's happening for real.
Well, that's
Just
real quick, because the texter weighs in. It's a good point. Is it any worse than Ryan Williams' eye black in the Georgia game that says kill everybody? Now, it's a football thing. I get it, but still, And Ryan Williams is a really, really good football player.
Yeah, and I would say yes. Me personally, I would say yes, it was worse, but no, from a coaching staff standpoint, somebody should see that and say, "Hey, man, take that off."
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit too tied in with the youth that I don't agree with what Dylan Stewart did, and I don't agree with what Ryan Williams had painted on his eye black. But I also understand that they're not thinking like we older folk
they're
are
not
thinking.
supposed to, and that's when you say no. That's a very
Yeah, it's our job to teach them. No, do not. And it's our job to start it at a very early age, by the way, not at 17 or 18. All right, there's your parenting segment
very
for the day.
special segment
Very
from the early game.
Play that for all the high school. That segment goes to all the high schools across the state. There's your parenting segment for the morning. 8:03.
Yeah, we kids, we know you're dumb. We're gonna help you.
Exactly.
But then Uncle Bill's going to give you a donut or encourage your
And then
parents.
we'll
to give
sugar
you a
you
donut.
up so you don't think again.
Tool.
Yeah, see, we love you, but we teach you too. 803-404-6100 is the early game.
You know, they do say perfection is a journey. Well, when we redid an upstairs bathroom a couple months ago, our journey led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin. That bathroom cabinet we replaced, well, we needed a countertop. We were referred to Carolina Stone Craftsman, and I'm telling you, we were very impressed. Felt right at home right away. Their fabulous showroom. It's amazing. We learned more about their marble, their granite, their quartz. They wanted to make sure you were educated in making your purchase. We learned about how they sculpt things with the highest craftsmanship. Family values are a core part of their business. We couldn't be more thrilled. There was so much from which to choose, and they were great in helping us figure out what's going to work best for our cabinet. So from visiting the showroom, selecting the granite, the installation, all the process was great. If you are in the market for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I do encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman just beyond Columbia in Chapin and definitely beyond your expectations. Locally owned, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Bluff Road at I-77, an accident. Also, Faro at Hardscrabble. I-20 eastbound at exit 55. That would be Highway 6 on I-20 eastbound. I-26 eastbound at exit 91. On the other side of Columbia, I-26 eastbound before exit 125. So several things out there that could slow you down. 78 for the high today, 78 tomorrow, 74 on Friday. Overnight low tomorrow being down to about 48. So going to be some jacket weather in the mornings. 57 now.
$7:21 on your Wednesday morning as we've given you special segments. We've talked a little bit about penalties. We've talked a little bit, we've actually let you vent a little bit this morning. And if you want to do that, you can give us a call, 803-404-6100, how you can do that if you want to do so this morning. I want to remind you that we do have just a few craft beer cards left. If you're a big craft beer connoisseur, you need to go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and purchase your craft beer card for $79. It's 12 craft beer locations, $30 at each brewery. That's a $360 value for just $79. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and purchase your craft beer card today if you would like to do that. I see a lot of you weighing in. A couple of you are weighing in here. Joel says, 100% agree. Why are you celebrating when you're getting your butt kicked? I could be wrong, but the concept of winning and losing has been de-emphasized quite a bit at the younger levels. I'm not some old school hard rear end. I'm substituting rear end for another word. But between everyone gets a ribbon concept and the AAU nullified nature of the U sports where exposure trumps everything, kids are more oblivious to how a team is doing.
I think that's a very fair assessment. Very, very fair assessment.
Todd weighs in, our Roll Tide buddy. He's sent us a couple text messages this morning, but he said, am I the only kid that watched the program before every game as a kid? Kill everyone. Let the paramedics sort them out. Actually, I don't think that's Todd. I don't think that's our Roll Tide buddy, a Roll Tide Todd buddy. But that's another Todd weighing in. 803-404-6100. We'll continue to get to some of those this morning. But you want to flip the script a little bit on this now. Dylan Stewart and Clowney comparisons, and you're saying the stats are actually pretty similar.
The stats are there. He's living up to comparison. He's living up to what we thought he was going to be. Now, actually, he's doing better than what we thought he was going to be. We assumed that he was going to be good as a 5-star coming in. We thought all these things, but he's been tremendous. And right now, he's on the same pace as Jadeveon Clowney as far as statistics concerned. In fact, they're almost statistically even. I'm looking for the actual stat here, but essentially, at this point in their freshman careers, they have the same exact stats as far as sacks and tackles for loss. There are a half a point. I'm looking for it. I can't find it right now, but they are half a point, half a sack, and a half a tackle for loss away from each other at this point in their freshman careers. And so we saw Dylan burst on the scene against ODU, and we was like, oh, that might be interesting. Then again, he did it against Kentucky. He went against a first-rounder against LSU. He maybe got taught couple of things about himself. But then, in that Ole Miss game, he was back to being dominant again. Ole Miss wasn't quitting, and that's another point. You should not be celebrating. However, the effort that he was playing with at that moment is not a given. He was still out there attempting to make plays, and he was still out there playing extremely hard in a game that was essentially over. And that's something that is commendable. That's something that is worth celebrating. You obviously don't want the extracurricular things, but he was still playing well and essentially dominating that game from his position as a true freshman, 5 games into his freshman career.
That's going to bring us to another little interesting point that Dabo Swinney brought up. That Dabo Swinney brought up last week, I believe. I believe it was last week. I don't think it was this week. I think it was last week. Sweeney's comment is because, hey, and I guess where I'm going with this, after the game, You need to have a coach specifically designed to grab Dylan Stewart and not let him hang around the field and talk to any Alabama coaches or any Alabama players. Sweeney said something I think we all kind of think. Said there's certainly a lot of tampering from other people after games. That's for sure. I've had several people over the last couple of years that have brought that up to me where somebody's come up to them. I've had parents tell me that players have been approached after games. That's just the way it is. That's the world we are in right now. I remember an article in the state paper in 1999. South Carolina's in the middle of 0-11. And it kind of was jokingly, tongue-in-cheek, saying one of the biggest things about South Carolina going up to play Tennessee that year was after the game, make sure Derek Watson gets back on the South Carolina bus.
Exactly. How long ago was that?
20. Yeah, was that 20?
So it's not the world we live in now. This been the world.
But now, with this transfer rule now being opened up a little bit more in NIL, there is an element as you go down to Alabama this weekend and the game ends, and Alabama's defensively, they're in need of some help. You mentioned it. We talked about it at the start of the program, the similarities in some ways between these two teams with what they're dealing with, not records and not talent, but some similarities. It's not a shocker if somebody bumps into Dylan Stewart after the game for Alabama. It's like, hey, you look pretty good out there. You know what you look real good in? In this uniform over here, in this stadium playing.
As the great philosopher T.I. said, is you happy? Did you just throw that out there? You say, are you happy? If you're not, listen.
So, again, game ends, put a coach right behind Dylan Stewart, and as soon as he makes what handshake he's got to make, he gets tugged off the field. So Alabama is not got guys going, hey, is you happy?
Yeah, just is you happy? If you don't remember that T.I. line from Why You Want to Go and Do That? That's an old classic from the old school channel. But these are Dylan and Clowney stats. So at this point in their freshman years, Dylan has 3.5 sacks and 5.5 tackles for loss. At this same stage in his freshman year, Clowney had 4 sacks and 5 tackles for loss. So they are on the same trajectory as far as playing. And he won't play anybody as good as he played against LSU, so you don't have to worry about that blanking happening again. And it seems as if he will only get better. And again, he seems to have the effort and intensity that's needed, which I'm not saying that anybody accused Clowney of playing too hard. That was never in his. That's not something anybody ever accused him of playing too hard or
having an overly high motor.
Yeah,
having to be told to slow down a tad.
It wasn't everything he was ever accused of. So I think the future is very bright for Dylan.
803-404-6100. Now we'll go back to another side of welcome to college football today. Bengali Kamara and even a Jaheim Otis for Alabama, both making decisions to redshirt, although Kamara's, I think, is a little more interesting, and I'll bring up why to you when we come back. You're listening to the early game.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington, the locally owned, women-owned business. Fantastic to work with. They helped us when we needed to get kitchen cabinets, when we had the flood and had to gut the kitchen. And when we got everything picked out, they were very helpful. They gave us that photorealistic rendering, the picture of the kitchen finished before it was even finished. Then we could find things like flooring and countertops and backsplashes to finish the whole project. But kitchens, that's not all they do. If you have a bedroom closet that needs to be more functional, you want to get rid of those wire hanging racks, maybe get some extra drawers or other storage, they can help you with that. If your pantry really could stand a little bit of work, you can't find things, maybe have some drawers put in there, they can help with that as well. Maybe you have a home office you want to build. Anything like that you need done, chwcabinetry.com is the place to go, or call them 803-520-6837. And of course, be sure to tell them Jen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Farrow Road at Hardscrabble, an accident there. Also, I-20 eastbound at Highway 6. I-26 eastbound at Columbia Avenue. Also, you'll find a slowdown. 78 for the high today, 76 tomorrow, 74 on Friday. Those overnight lows tomorrow night and into Friday be about 46 degrees, so a little bit chillier than we're used to. Should have a nice weekend ahead, 79 and 83 respectively. It's 57 currently on 107.5 The Game.
$7:34 as we get you up and get you going here on your Wednesday morning. Want to remind you on Friday nights and coming up on Friday, we'll have Chris Deering for the for the high school highlights of the week. And this coming Friday night, 7 p.m., the Love Chevy High School Football Scoreboard Show with Justin Hall and Elijah Campbell. Should be another fun week of high school football across the state, and we'll have you covered right here, whether it's on the early game with Chris Deering or whether it is at 7 o'clock at night with the Love Chevy High School Football Scoreboard Show, where, again, you can hear Justin Hall and Elijah Campbell. This is just, Preston, I don't want to say we laughed, or I don't know what we did with the Matthew Sluka deal at UNLV. And it is that time of the year where players now are right in between about games 4, 5, and 6. And if you've missed a game, as in the instance of Bengali Kamara, maybe last week was your 4th game that you could play in. Maybe this week, if you've missed 2 weeks, is your 4th game that you might have to play in. Last year, we saw Xavier McLeod make a decision in November, I believe, is when it was, or late October, I believe. I think it was the final weekend of October when South Carolina went to Missouri, and he made a decision he did not want to play, did not want to travel, did not want to play, and that went poorly for both sides. This year, it's Bengali Kamara. Now, Kamara has watched his snap count rise. He was injured. He was kind of hobbled there for about 2 weeks. Played in one game, did not play in another. So last week was game 4 for him, but he saw a season high in snaps. This is Shane Beamer explaining Bengali Kamara is now no longer with the team. He's going to enter the transfer portal. This news popped out yesterday before the press conference. Here is Shane Beamer explaining the Bengali Kamara redshirt situation.
He came in my office yesterday and told me that he was redshirting. I told him that that's not quite how this works, that we can have a discussion about his role and his redshirting best. And we went back and forth a little bit. I think his situation's a little bit different than somebody. There's guys on our team right now, Hale, that we've had conversations with that, look, we're doing what we have to do in 2024 to win football games, but if we can save your redshirt year and not play you in 5 games, we will. Freshmen that have played some, older guys that have started that have played some this year that we've had those conversations with that maybe don't have the role on offense, defense that they want. But, he was a guy that played season high in snaps on Saturday at linebacker that was going to continue to play more for us moving forward. My job is to do what's best for the team. And what was best for the team, in my mind, is Ghali continuing to play and help us go beat Alabama or try to beat Alabama this weekend. And he didn't quite feel the same way. So in the end, I made the decision for him that it's probably best to move on.
Let me break from the point real quick. There's an interesting clip in there I did not catch yesterday when listening. He mentioned specifically guys on offense that have had starting roles that are not playing because they're trying to redshirt. Tree Babalade is the very first name that jumps out. Without saying it out loud, and again, I think this is conspiracy theory gunner here. He's never on the injury report. I think in case there was a significant injury, which is why you didn't see him play against Akron, because you didn't want to waste snaps against Akron. I think they're just in case something happened and you had to play him in 4 games and you could still get his redshirt year. I think that's why they're doing that. That was a really interesting. I didn't catch that yesterday because I was kind of focused on the Kamara thing, and I want to come back to this with you here now. But I didn't catch that part. But now that I hear it sitting here, I'm now almost convinced that they're redshirting Tree Babalade for a year, allowing these guys to kind of filter through the pro. You do have 3 interior guys who are 18th year seniors, and Tree Babalade holds on to a year. We'll come back to that because of that. I mean, it won't be today, but if we can hold on to that clip, Jen, that's one I want to come back to. But this is really interesting to me. Both sides. Preston, you're a player. Does a player have a right to go to a coach and tell him he's redshirting?
Does he have a right? Yeah, of course he has a right. He has a right. He has agency over his life and career. Of course he does. Yes.
And does he have a right to have that at his university, or can he have a right to do it? Explain what you take away from this, I guess, is where I'm trying to go.
I think both parties exercise their individual rights. I have a right to ask for my wishes to be requested. You have a right to deny them. These young people are about to go into the real world. We always talk about this as training for the real world. Well, guess what? You want to go to your boss and go get a raise. Your boss says no. You can then make a decision whether you want to stay or whether you want to leave. Or your boss can decide, we don't want you here anymore. I think this is a very clear, and this is probably a best case scenario for all parties. I come to you and express a request. You can either accept it or deny it, and then we can move forward from there.
So this is also different than what just happened at Alabama, where, again, if you haven't heard, Alabama's got a defensive lineman who had started a bunch of games last year, had seen limited playing time this year, had suffered an injury, kind of was limited in his time. But at Alabama, you've got a defensive lineman who didn't go to his coach, who made his own decision, kind of like Matthew Sluka did. That different circumstances there, but didn't go to his coach. Jaheim Otis decided on his own. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to transfer, so I'm just going to go ahead and redshirt. Whereas with Kamara, it sounds kind of like he wanted to continue playing for South Carolina, but also realizes, and this is where I get his point, to have a chance at the NFL, I really need to put some stuff on film here, and I'm not sure how much of an opportunity I'm going to get by playing in this 5th game, because after this 5th game for me, I'm done. That's it. This is my final year, where maybe if I redshirt next year, and he's smart. We've talked about this. He looked at that depth chart and looked at all the seniors there that are lined up there, Kaba, Williams, Demetrius Knight, who's a 12th-year senior. He looked at all those guys and was like, oh, there's a lot of playing time to be had next year. Maybe you don't need me right now. Maybe next year I can be the starter and put a lot of stuff. I get his entire point right there, and that's why I kind of go, it's really fascinating because it feels like his decision is not like some of the other ones we've seen.
Yeah, it's a very interesting decision because he's also looking at the idea of I have another extra year to play / earn to work because they're not just students, they're earning potential. So he has another opportunity and he was looking for that chance. What's again fascinating, this can all be solved with collective bargaining. We can nip this in the bud and we can figure this out. But what's interesting to me is that if this was a job market, all it would take is him saying, okay, I'm removing myself, and then he would have to go to the next person and say, they would ask for a reference, and then the person that was referenced would say, I don't know, let me tell you what he did. But because the market is there for Bengali Kamara, which he should be able to realize for himself, he'll be able to work next year at another university because for all of the trash that the coaches talk about, the transfer portal and tampering, there is going to be another coach who's going to need a linebacker, and they're going to take Bengali Kamara. So just like Shane took him this year.
All right.
So this is part of the game.
So now everybody goes, well, man, what is Shane doing? Why is Shane doing? Well, this is where I also find it fascinating. It feels like last year there might have been some agreements with a certain wide receiver who was in town who said, hey, I don't feel comfortable playing. Let me redshirt. I'm going to redshirt, and I'll come back next year. And they went, okay, fine, you're coming back next year. Only to when the portal opened, said wide receiver went, I'm out of here later. Thank you for preserving my year. When Juice Wells probably could have gotten them bowl eligible. 6 wins last year. And I think that's where Shane looks at it and goes, look, I have no guarantee that I'm allowing. I need you. I need you for depth. there's no guarantee that you're going to tell me you're coming back only to hop in the portal and cost us later on.
Also, this goes back to Shane can play tough with who he wants to play tough
Exactly.
with.
Yeah, true.
Because if there was another people on this team, i.e. Juice Wells, take your time. We'll figure things out. We can smooth the situation out. But Shane did the cost-benefit analysis and said, nah, Bengali can walk. Xavier McLeod can walk. It's fine. And Bengali also probably learned something about where he stood.
Yeah.
Because you walk in there and you say, oh, no, we're better. We're fine without you. And then you walk out and you say, oh, man, I got to, what am I going to do now? So good on everybody, I think.
And that's why I say with Shane when he says we're worried about 2024, not 2025, because Bengali saying, I want a red shirt preserved this year. There is absolutely zero guarantee that he is coming back in 2025 to help you. Which understandable. I'm not arguing that he is only thinking about himself in this situation where he's like, I want to save my season to put more on film. There's no guarantee the way this thing plays out that you're right, some other school doesn't come along and while he's redshirt be like, you know what, you don't need to play for them. You need to come play for us next year. We can get you more. That's the dynamic that I find really intriguing is the coach looking at it and now a coach that might have been scorned and burned by another player now being like, no, I'm not following this for you.
You live and you learn.
803-404-6100. We will come back and we will wrap things up in hour number 2. It is the early game. Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And as we're coming off of the hurricane about a week and a half ago, it is time for you to make sure that if you have a roofing issue, you call Mid-State Roofing. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are there to make sure you have a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. That's how you can reach Mid-State Roofing today. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing is there to make sure they can help you. Whether it's an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee, Mid-State Roofing will make sure they help you with a maintenance contract. So again, if you've been walking around your house or your business and you notice that you had some roof damage, it's time for you to call Mid-State Roofing and let them help you with a maintenance contract. Whether it's here in Columbia, Florence, or Myrtle Beach, Mid-State Roofing will help you. Give them a phone call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in if you want to do so this morning. And coming off of that little discussion, I don't agree with Steve. Not for Bengali, because he says it's not about putting things on film. It's all about the money. Now, I don't agree with that in this situation. Matthew Sluka at UNLV, yes. Maybe some other guys, yes.
Okay. If it's all about the money, welcome to America, Jack. What's the problem with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm just saying in this situation.
Yeah, I don't know if that's this.
I'm just saying in this situation, he hasn't done enough anywhere to be able to go demand NIL dollars like a Matthew Sluka, who's like, you guys see him?
And again, Sluka lost a little bit of leverage, I would say, but maybe after Syracuse game, he gained it back.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, look, no, you can't convince me Auburn's not banging down his door. I know they've got the commitment from, I think it's Deuce McKnight, who's the big-time dual-threat quarterback there that probably is going to save Hugh Freeze's job. But anyway, it really, Preston, it's a day and age that you didn't get to deal with. You went to Lou Holtz, and they were like, all right, you want to transfer? Can't go to any SEC school. Can't go to Clemson. You know what? We're not going to let you go to North Carolina State, Wake Forest. I tell you what, you can go to any school 8 hours away where your mom and dad have to drive to go see you play. That's cool. Go do that.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that some of those guardrails didn't keep people in place and maybe help people stick through situations that they should have. But, yes, there were a lot of obstacles to movement.
We will get more into the NFL in the next hour because the old Aaron Rodgers story, they just can't help themselves up there with the Jets. I've never been a Jets fan. I've kind of really never followed the Jets, Preston. But as someone who doesn't follow them, doesn't pull for them, even I can feel the dysfunction of the Jets.
Yeah, not going great, not going well. But who would have thought that Aaron Rodgers would bring some drama with him? Nobody ever could have predicted that.
We will get into all of that in the next hour. There was another little story that popped up last night that could be very interesting to follow as we move through the week. Now, Tampa Bay is going to play New Orleans. That game is going to be in New Orleans. But last night, according to a couple different sources, Mike Garofalo of Pro Football Focus and the NFL Network putting out QB situation for the Saints. Derek Carr is going to be out for a few weeks with an oblique strain. Sources are telling Mike Garofalo that Spencer Rattler is a strong candidate to get the start in Derek Carr's absence. I feel like in a way you kind of called this. I don't know if you meant with an injury or whatever, but I feel like you were at the forefront of Spencer Rattler would be getting starts at some point this year.
Yeah, I think this was pretty clear once they drafted him. I may have thought it was going to be performance-based, but also if you're playing quarterback in the NFL, there's a good chance you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, again, Garofalo with the NFL Network. I believe he does some writing for Pro Football Focus. But I had to – it's one of those things last night, Preston, welcome to X or Twitter. I had to, verify that was a legitimate account. But, all right, here we go, Spencer. If this is indeed what happens and you get your first start, count me in. I'll figure out a way to watch it coming up on Sunday, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll be in for it. I will tune in for that for sure.
One other note, NFL note from yesterday, according to Ian Rappaport, former Clemson standout and now Las Vegas Raiders star Christian Wilkins is out indefinitely after undergoing surgery to repair a Jones fracture he suffered this past Sunday. Goes on to say Wilkins was the Raiders' big money free agent acquisition, being out as a crushing blow in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, that's gonna be rough on them. They were counting on Christian to come in and provide that push up the middle so that Max Crosby could get loose out there. That's tough on him.
And also, just in case you're ready for some excitement, it appears the Drake May era ready to get going in New England.
Supplanting the Jacoby Brissett era?
That's right. An era that won't be hard to forget. We'll get into this Jet situation because there's a lot there. Who exactly got Robert Saleh fired? Also, apparently they waited until he made a key coaching staff move. As soon as they heard he had made a key coaching staff move, he was summoned to the principal's office.
Man.
And then he was no longer employed. We'll tell you about it. It's the early game.
Listen, is arthritic pain keeping you from doing the things you love to do? Is it pain in your knees or hips, back, and shoulder? Did you know that you can now use your body's own healing properties to revitalize your achy joints and get real lasting pain? Well, the good folks at QC Kinetics are here to help. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in cellular therapies that can revitalize your joints. Whether it's back pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, or knee pain, these are cutting-edge treatments that require no surgery, no drugs, and most importantly, no downtime. It's a quick in-office procedure that'll get you moving again. So if arthritic pain is keeping you from doing the things you love, you owe it to yourself to learn more. And call the good folks at QC Kinetics today for a free consultation. Call 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860. Again, the good folks at QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860.
Farrow Road at Hardscrabble Road, an accident there. Also I-20 eastbound at Highway 6. I-20 westbound at Clemson Road, there's also a tie-up. And one more to let you know about I-26 eastbound at exit 91. So we do wish you to be careful today. A lot of extra trucks we've been seeing on the highway, especially power trucks and things like that. A lot of them on the interstate yesterday, and I'm sure we'll see more today. So just allow a little extra time and patience if you get into a snarl because of that. As far as your weather goes, 78 for the high today, 76 tomorrow. The overnight low tomorrow night will be actually 48, so might need a jacket come Friday morning.
$8 a.m. as we get you up and get you going here. your Wednesday morning. Again, want to remind you, 107.5 The Game is teaming up with the community partners and launching the Hurricane Helene relief effort for families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. So if you will please join us in supporting the families impacted by the recent disaster. The collection drive started yesterday. We'll have it again today. 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Again, that is 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard. The collection drive is asking you please bring non-perishable items such as canned food, bottled water, diapers, wipes, pet food, toiletries, and feminine hygiene products. Again, today is at 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. It is also in the Northeast, Brooklyn Northeast Church, 1203 Summit Parkway. Again, you got 2 locations today. Brooklyn Northeast Church, 1203 Summit Parkway, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Please come out and help the Hurricane Helene relief effort for families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. We've covered a lot this morning. We've let some of you vent and get those emotions from the Mississippi game out. I do think it's fair that we have carried this one over a little bit more to Wednesday.
Yes.
Tomorrow, we'll kind of look more toward Alabama and the true X's and O's of that game and what South Carolina has to do to be competitive in the fourth quarter. I think that's a fair way to say it. I'm not going to say win. I think with Alabama, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow, you try and get this game into the final 10 minutes to be within a touchdown, and you hope Alabama just kind of freezes up. And much like they did against Georgia, although Ryan Williams completely bailed him out on that, and good luck on that with Saturday dealing with Ryan Williams. But I think that's the key, right? And we'll talk about that tomorrow. Get it to the final 10 minutes within a touchdown.
Yeah, and also what style of game do you want to play? Because it feels like Kalen DeBoer has subsequently transported his style from Washington, which is a high-scoring, high-flying, into the SEC. That's not a game that we can win.
Right.
And so styles make fights. We'll see how that works.
So we'll get in. We'll really transition. So, but at this hour, if you want to weigh in, I kind of get it out.
It's fine.
Purge it.
It's fine. That was a tough one.
Purge it. If you want to be completely negative. Who was it? It was JP, Josh earlier. Initially said, I think he said he wasn't going to be negative, or said he wasn't trying to be negative, and then was very negative. But hey, that's okay.
He did the sandwich because he finished with "I'm 100% behind it," and that's fine.
So anyway, but if you want to weigh in on that this hour, we'll kind of wrap up the Mississippi game here from in the next hour, and then move on to Alabama tomorrow. Also, we've just mentioned last night Major League Baseball. Preston, if we could stay up, if we weren't doing an early show. If we were doing a show just a little bit later, we might be coming in talking how exciting the Dodgers-Padres series is. 11 total runs in the first 3 innings. Dodgers put up 1 spot in the first, a 4 spot in the third. Padres said, cool, we'll put up 6 in the second. And it was 6-5 going into the fourth, and they went no scores the rest of the game.
Blanked them the rest of the game. Yeah, I got a feeling MLB baseball not happy about this when you got the big market Dodgers losing, big market Yankees.
I don't know, man, because the Padres have dudes.
They do.
I mean,
Tatis is fun.
There's guys you want to tune in and watch on the Padres.
Fun.
Yeah.
Even I was watching Yu Darvish pitch the other day. I was like, look at that.
Yeah, I was like, I think he threw a pitch against me. Like,
I was like, wow, he's still hanging around.
Yeah, but no, a great game. And then last night, the Mets bludgeoned the Phillies there in New York. That was a beating. Pete Alonso. I'm telling you, I've never really noticed it until last night. Pete Alonso, did you see this last night? He hits a home run. Oppo Taco there early on. Takes the bat with him to first base and flings it into the air.
Okay, all right.
It's a semi-bat flip, semi-bat celebration. I'm assuming if it was the regular season and it was kind of irrelevant, the next 4 dudes would have taken one straight to the back, like middle of the back, until whoever I forget now the pitcher, Aaron Nola, until Aaron Nola was ejected. Like, Pete Alonso carried the bat with him to first base and then just gave it a heave into the air. And nobody got beamed after that because it's the playoffs and it kind of matters now.
We have some consequences. We can't afford to waste those outs. I get it.
So
sometimes you got to stand on principle, though.
That was one. Well, and then later on, I got to go back and look at the names. I don't follow the Mets. But then later on, you had a moonshot. I mean, as nice as Alonso's was last night, 7-2 the final there in that game. As nice as the moonshot of Alonso, the follow-up that went somewhere into outer space was even better. And it was a couple home runs last night.
Okay.
Winker.
I just saw it. What would make you more mad? Pete Alonso carrying the bat to first base?
Or Jesse Winker?
Or Fernando Tatis doing the crossover on third base?
Oh, yeah, no. Good question. Look up Jesse Winkers as well.
All right.
Jesse Winkers is right up there with both of them. Right. Winker hit one into the right field upper deck last night that as soon as it left the bat, and he admired it. Like, he took every second possible to absolutely admire it last night. But that was Major League Baseball, 6-5. Padres over the Dodgers, 7-2. Mets over the Phillies. I watched a good bit of that Mets-Phillies game, and the Mets fans were completely into it and fired up for that one. You watching the Winker home run just yet?
Yeah, he looks like a budget Bryce Harper.
Yes.
Come on, Jesse, get your own look.
So you watch that one, and then you tell me which one is more impressive in terms of standing and taking it in there. But again, that was the games last night. NHL got underway. If you're into the NHL, I actually watched a little bit of that, and then you had Florida Atlantic lose by a touchdown to Liberty in overtime. Jamie Chadwell's Liberty Ball Club, 31-24. There's you see that home run.
They could all get one in the square in the back for me. But listen, I'm an old guy.
Playoffs. We don't do that in the playoffs. 803-404-6100. Yesterday, Robert Saleh out as Jets coach. And then that brought up a whole line of things that may have happened. I mean, it was an absolute, not that the Jets aren't a zoo, but it brought up a whole line of things that could have happened there with who fired him, who got fired before he got fired. It was a wildly entertaining afternoon in New York for the Jets.
And again, if you didn't think that there was going to be some drama surrounding what is the recent back end of Aaron Rodgers' career, because this wasn't always his thing, but he's, for the past couple years, has been embroiled in something all the time. This is what you kind of get when you bring that into an already dysfunctional organization. And so it seems like, and again, I don't know any of these people, but it feels like Saleh is getting the raw end of the deal here. And he's not a great coach.
Okay, I was going to say.
He's not great as a record. Defensively, they've been very good defensively, which is what he's based on, which is also very curious about this because he's a defensive guy. The defense is playing well. The offense is struggling. So presumably he goes to make a change.
He made a change. He demoted Nathaniel Hackett. Shocker.
Who by the way, is...
Well, that's Aaron Rodgers, dude.
His guy.
That's Aaron Rodgers.
The only reason
it's like what was Greg Maddox's personal catcher? What was his?
I should know this one. I failed.
Perez.
All my trading has failed.
Was it
for this
Perez?
One.
Golly, I can't remember.
Somebody. 404-6100. You know this.
Who was Greg Maddox's person? That's what it is. Like Aaron Rodgers, wherever he goes, he gets to bring Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator. Robert Saleh demoted him. Yes, didn't fire him. Just demoted him, gave play calling duties to Todd Downing. Yeah, this was the equivalent of being sent from wide receiver coach to tight end.
Correct.
And basically, Saleh did this only to be then summoned to the owner's suite or whatever.
So how'd that chain of command go? Nathaniel Hackett gets the news. Nathaniel Hackett then calls his guy. Then his guy, Aaron Rodgers, calls the guy and says, hey, I don't like the way this is being handled. Then the guy's like, all right, well, I got to make a change. And so I wonder how long this took place. What was the chain of events? Was it text messages? Was it calls, voicemails? What happened?
According to this, it says Saleh had made the decision to give play calling duties to Todd Downing because of the continued issues on offense. He made the final decision Tuesday morning. Then, roughly 5 minutes later, he was called into Woody Johnson's office and fired.
Communication's quick these days. Text message. Hey, Aaron. Code red.
Yeah. I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm done. I'm not calling plays. How are you going to survive with Todd Downing?
And then Aaron sends it up the chain, and then it gets back to Robert Saleh. And then I mean, come on, Aaron. Aaron's gonna act like, oh, I didn't know nothing was. I'm just as surprised as everybody else. Get out of here.
This is don't bring Aaron Rodgers around your ball. If I'm a coach and somebody mentions Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, nah, we're good. Gardner Minshew? Oh yeah, no, we'll keep Gardner Minshew. Don't bring Aaron Rodgers around.
And again, if you look at the last particular game, Aaron Rodgers was the reason why they did not win.
All right.
3 interceptions, very limited mobility. If his name wasn't Aaron Rodgers, you'd be clamoring for somebody else to be playing quarterback.
Jen, let's play. This is number 23. This is Aaron Rodgers on Sunday. Of course, they were in London. And playing the Vikings. And as Preston just pointed out, it was kind of Aaron Rodgers who may have cost them that game. But here's Aaron Rodgers post-game Sunday after the loss to the Vikings.
The most important positive to take with us is if we stick together. Because there'll be a lot of people outside the building who won't be sticking with the Jets. So we stick together. I still have a lot of confidence in this team. I think it's a team that's going to make a run. Now, whether that run starts next week, the following week, or whenever it might be, I'm confident in our guys. I'm confident in leadership and confident we'll get this thing straightened out.
Aaron was very confident in the leadership because he knew Woody Johnson was going to make the hit when he was going to order it. And now Aaron is saying this to the team today.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
Very clearly, very simple, very simple. Aaron Rodgers is the head coach of this team at this moment. And Woody Johnson decided, hey, we're going to let this thing go, and we're just going to have to live and die with the decision that we made to get Aaron Rodgers here as the head coach.
Jeff Ulbrich stepped to the front to address the team yesterday, and Aaron Rodgers just put his hand out, moved him back, and was like, you're good, Jeff.
Jeff.
Here's my pins. You hold these so I can draw plays that we're going to run. Hold them. Hand me the green one back. I'm going to need that. Thank you, Jeff.
Also, Jeff is the defensive. They put the defensive guy back to the interim, so it's like we still don't want anybody messing with this non-functioning offense. Nathaniel Hackett walked in with the big chest. Like, hey,
I'm back.
You know what time it is. That's my guy.
I don't know, man. You knew that this was going to be entertaining from the get-go, and it has been, I think, it's been everything I think this year we hoped and a little bit more with Aaron Rodgers joining the Jets, and we'll see how they continue to do and move forward. 803-404-6100. We'll get back into some Spencer Rattler a little bit. He might have some big times this weekend, and we'll tell you about that. You're listening to The Early Game.
Getting a little bit busier out there this morning. Faro Road at Hardscrabble, getting that cleaned up. Also, I-20 eastbound at Highway 6. I-26 eastbound at Columbia Avenue. That would be exit 91. Should be getting that cleaned up here pretty soon. I-20 westbound after Clemson Road, an accident there. And one other that's been reported, Kittiwake Drive near Orchard Hill Drive. Kind of a nice forecast, starting to feel a little bit more like fall. 78 for the high today, 76 tomorrow, but tomorrow night's overnight low 48. So it's going to be chilly Friday morning when you're heading off to work or to school. High 74 on Friday, then we get to around the low 80s for the remainder of the weekend. But starting off the morning, a little bit cooler than yesterday for sure, sitting at 57.
$8:19 as we roll along on your Wednesday morning. We're talking a little NFL. We've talked a lot of college football, South Carolina and Alabama, South Carolina and Mississippi, too. We'll get back into that coming up. But again, NFL now really starting to kick into high gear. Preston, I don't know when you really start going, all right, here's what's going on with the NFL. Here's what I'm watching. Here's what I'm seeing. Normally when the first coach gets fired, it's about the time you go, okay, now things are getting real. Now we're deciding who's who and who's going to be a contender and who's going to be a pretender.
That's a not a bad metric. And I wonder what the records are. I haven't done a deep dive on this, but I think you should be able to figure out like the earliest the coach has been fired. Who's next to be fired? What's the probability of the people being fired? I got my eye on you, Kevin Stefanski up in Cleveland. There's just a lot of folks out there that say, "Oh, they're firing people. Okay, we got to tighten up. Let's get our stuff together."
Yeah, the firing season has started. All right, you start looking around. Jens Bears 3-2 on the season. Helps that they just walloped the Panthers. Anytime you get the Panthers on your schedule is pretty good. You look around,
but we could have lost to them. Keep that in mind. We are the Bears. We could have lost that game.
So you don't take it for granted.
Yeah,
we're
seeing some improvements here and there. So.
I mean, Rams right now, 1-4 on the season. Start looking around at Matthew Stafford being like, I'm not sure how this is going to work out for you, buddy.
Well, here's the deal with that. I mean, McVay has already floated out loud in public that he was not coming back and he was deciding whether or not he was going to do it or not. So if I was ownership, I'd be working on a plan B.
You mentioned it at this point in time. There's only 2 undefeated teams left in the league.
Skol.
And one of them has gained a bandwagon supporter who's hanging on for dear life. That would be the one and only Preston Thorne. 5-0 on the season. The Chiefs also 5-0 on the season. 4-1 right now are the Commanders. And look, the Commanders play the Ravens this week. Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson, and sign me up for that because, man, Jaden Daniels, I think you're right. He came from Arizona State to LSU. Their defense couldn't have stopped the 3 of us last year, which kind of took away from what Jaden Daniels was doing. Even in a Heisman season, it took to the very end to be like, oh, his numbers are absolutely ridiculous. And now I'm just kind of ignoring what he's doing again with Washington. But that game against Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, I was like, wow, this guy might be special.
He's really good, and he's almost entered into the stage where if you put him in a lineup, I'd be like, I'm not sure who. I can recognize his frame because he has such a unique body frame playing quarterback. He's kind of long and lanky a little bit.
Looks like a basketball player.
Yes.
Looks like a basketball player.
But I'm not, without looking him up right now, I'm not convinced I know what he actually looks like.
Also, what's happening in the NFL? It feels like the Panthers might have messed up. I know, don't be shocked by that, by taking Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. This one might come back to be one of those. You did what with the number 1 pick? Stroud so far this year, almost 1,400 yards, 1,385 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and completing 69% of his passes. And they're 4-1. Texans are 4-1.
Who do you think thinks about it more when they're laying in bed at night? Does Bryce Young think like, why did I go number 1, or does CJ think that he didn't go number one.
Do you remember the scenario that got them?
Yeah, I do.
That cost the Texans? Lovie Smith.
Lovie Smith, yeah. Lovie.
Out there going for 2 and getting it in the final game, in a irrelevant final game of the year. They get the 2-point conversion. They cost themselves the number 1 pick. Of course, would have they taken Bryce Young? Would have they put Bryce Young in a better situation? I'm one of those for NFL quarterbacks, and this will bring us to our next point. I'm one of those people that it's not how good you actually are. It's the organization you go to.
There is a lot to that.
For all we know, way back in the day, David Carr might have actually been a good quarterback. Might have been a good quarterback. I don't know. I have no idea. But boy, did he get thrown into a bad situation. Your new guy, Sam Darnold.
Check him out.
Maybe he got thrown into a bad situation.
Maybe. He started his career with the New York Football Jets and then had a stint with the Panthers. So, I mean, yeah, Sam's had a rough go of it. And again, I'm not. And also, they're 5-0. Sam is not an elite quarterback. But maybe he's found a coach and a system that can take his talents and use them in the right way.
And that brings us to the news from last night. According to Mike Garofalo of NFL Network, sources are indicating that the Saints will turn to Spencer Rattler this coming weekend as the starter. Derek Carr, brother of David Carr, expected out for several weeks with an oblique strain. They have, to be honest with you, I don't know the injury report policy. By the way, we get an injury report tonight from South Carolina. Be excited about that. But I don't know exactly the NFL's injury report policy on days and how all of that goes. But the bottom line here is that it looks like Spencer Rattler is now set to get a chance to run the Saints. And I think he's in an organization where there's enough to make him look good. There's not enough to make him look great. But it's an organization, Dennis Allen, by the way, could be fighting for his job depending on how things continue to go. But it's not a bad situation or scenario right now for Spencer Rattler if he does indeed get the start this weekend.
Well, what was really interesting is when David Carr got hurt, when Derek Carr got hurt, Spencer did not go in.
Right.
And that was a little bit curious, but I'm assuming that Spencer's the best option with a whole full week to prepare, and maybe they didn't want to just throw him into that situation with that being his first opportunity.
That's a good point. You're at Arrowhead. You're against the Chiefs. Saints have dropped 3 in a row now. Eagles, Falcons, and Chiefs is how that all worked out. As a former Fresno State quarterback that has stepped in, I can't quite remember his last name. Jake Haydner is, I believe, how you say his last name. He was 2 of 7 for 17 yards. And it could have been as simple as they watched him and were like, nah.
That could have been it also.
No. And so it's going to count me in as watching Spencer Rattler. Is he going to have some ups and downs this coming weekend? Probably so. But Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, by the way, also thrown into one of those situations with the Browns. And he made the most of it for a little while before it didn't work. And then, as you said, he bounced around from Carolina, I think, to San Francisco and then to Tampa Bay. Is that right?
It's L.A. He was with the Rams for the brief stint.
Okay, the Rams. But Spencer Rattler right now, again, nothing is confirmed yet. But again, according to Mike Garofalo, sources are indicating that the Saints will hand over the ball to Spencer Rattler this weekend to see what he can do with it. And it'll be a home game, too. That's another, you just point about putting Haydner out there in Kansas City on the road. A good opportunity for him.
Yeah, I'll be locked in if that's the case. I guess we'll find out here pretty shortly, but I'll be locked in to see when and if he's playing.
Yeah, we'll continue to keep an eye on that throughout the week and let you know. That way you can, if you don't have, I don't know what the television schedule would be, but if you don't have NFL Sunday ticket, maybe you want to get to a place that does so that you can check out Spencer Rattler's first start and see how that looks. I'm believing that would be the first start for a Gamecock quarterback in the NFL since Connor Shaw did.
About what was happening around the organization at that time. Woof.
Well, the public story is Brian Hoyer basically said, I'm not helping Johnny Manziel, and then laughed when Manziel had to ask a question about the offense.
Yeah. Manziel wasn't helping himself either.
That too. 803-404-6100. Come back. We'll get back into some stuff said from yesterday. Preston brings up, are Alabama and South Carolina actually in the same boat this week? We'll get some ideas on that. You're listening to The Early Game. Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, where, again, we are in the scariest month of the year. But guess what? Zerorez has a spectacular deal going on right now that you need to take advantage of. Right now, mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129. So you got guests coming over, you got a Halloween party lined up, call Zerorez today. Schedule your appointment, 803-262-4020, or schedule online, ZerorezColumbia.com. Again, mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129. So that scary carpet you have with those stains, with any blemishes on them, the tile, the upholstery, Zerorez can get that cleaned up right now with their patented ZR Water technology. Again, call 803-262-4020. Schedule your appointment. Mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Highway 1 at North Grampian Hills Road, an accident there. Also, I-20 westbound after Clemson Road. And the other one to let you know about, Kitty Drive near Orchard Hill Drive. We're looking for a high today of 78, 76 tomorrow, 74 on Friday. We get back into the low 80s for the weekend. But tonight, the overnight low of 58. The overnight low tomorrow night will be 48. So definitely a cooler start. Kind of getting some jacket weather for the mornings. Currently holding at 57 on the early game.
Yeah, for sure. Just want to apologize to me, and it won't happen again.
That is the voice of Alabama linebacker Malachi Moore apologizing for his actions. If you haven't seen it, you can YouTube it, Google it, or whatever. How do I want to word this? Not as violent, probably is the way to say it.
Yeah, it was a different tone to what he was doing. I mean,
he got a 15-yarder too for kicking the football.
He was definitely out of control. He was throwing basically a temper tantrum on the field, and he was totally out of emotional control on the field. You could see it. It was bad. He waved off the coach, telling him not to come out the game. It was another embarrassing moment for a young person on the field.
Insubordination. That's what I would go with.
He did that also, yeah.
Yeah, like
even before that, he had the unsportsmanlike, then he had the insubordination. It was a lot.
Yeah. So that brings us to these two teams again, totally different in terms of where the talents are and where the goals are and what the expectations are. You say though that looks like both teams may be in the same boat a tad.
I'm trying to work this together, and maybe we'll bring it back a little bit more tomorrow. But there might be more alike than they are different. Aside from the talent gap that you would obviously place on the Alabama side. They're both coming off embarrassing losses for different reasons, but both teams suffered embarrassing losses, not just losses. I think both teams were embarrassed last weekend.
And I blame a little bit of this on you.
Oh, no.
Because last week, if you remember, I think it was on air, we were talking about Alabama, and you were like, and you said, is South Carolina, Alabama, is this the first game that Kalen DeBoer's supposed to win? That he could lose, and then you asked me, you're like, well, who do they play this week? And I was like, they play Vanderbilt. And you said, no, so next week could be the very first game that he's supposed to win, that he could lose. They went ahead and sped up that process.
Yeah, sped up the process, yeah. So they both lost embarrassing opportunities. Both had players do embarrassing things on the field, though they were different. There's some conversation about coordinators in both positions. Obviously, the offensive coordinator here in Dow Loggins, Kane Womack's catching a lot of heat in Alabama right now. There's some conversations about that. There's just a lot of similarities between where these – then we talked about the Bengali Kamara situation, and they had a player elect to redshirt also.
The only difference is their player didn't go speak to their coach about it.
Yeah.
Their player basically said, I'm done.
Yes, and again, I don't like the whole situation, but I do respect that he went to talk to the coach and they handled it as they handled it. Fine. I think there are some similarities between the teams and the situations that they're in right now.
To that point, you look at it, I'm really, really interested to see what the attitude of Alabama is. I think everybody is understanding of what I'm about to say and totally agrees. If South Carolina was, say, Arkansas coming in after just upsetting Tennessee, maybe they have Alabama's attention a little bit more. If it was Florida, who's not good, but is a big name program coming in, maybe they have Alabama's attention a little bit more. This is a game where I think Alabama looks across right now. I almost wonder if it's harder to get yourself remotivated when it's South Carolina and there's just that stigma of losing to Vanderbilt. And I'll never forget South Carolina at home, 2006, I think, coming off of the North Carolina victory. People can correct me if I'm a little off on my years. Might have been 2007. 2006 or 2007. But South Carolina had gone to North Carolina. They held on for dear life in that game. They were 5-1, I believe, 6-1, and they were top. I think they were 6. I think they were number 6 in the country, and came home and just laid a dud against Vanderbilt and never recovered. They came home. They got beat by Vanderbilt 17-6 on an afternoon. The fair was in town. I'll never forget that. And South Carolina never recovered and lost the last 5 games. Vanderbilt and 4 more after that. I wonder what the mindset will be for Alabama in this situation, because again, not trying to be mean to anybody, but we all agree South Carolina's not going to be a team that catches their attention. It's not going to be a game that catches the attention of the fan base. You can't say, well, we were looking past Vanderbilt towards South Carolina. I don't know what the emotions of that game is going to be on the Crips. And then throw in an 11 a.m. kick where, not that Alabama is known for being a raucous environment anyway, but I don't know what the attitude's going to be there.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I would think would be focused on. We'll talk a little bit more maybe tomorrow about the players, how the players feel, but I'm thinking about the fans. Alabama's not known for having the most raucous environment or the fans being overly excited for a average game. They used to just come into this game and sitting politely cheering as Alabama scores 50 and ends the game. And I'm curious to see if it's a game early or if something happens or if Alabama comes out and goes with 2 3-and-outs or even worse, South Carolina goes down the field and scores, because I think that would be more frustrating to them. How do those fans
especially coming off of what Diego Pavia did in terms of being a mobile quarterback?
Here's the thing about this game: we have a mobile quarterback. They have a mobile quarterback. Maybe you look and you say, hey, maybe there's some things that we can take advantage of. And so if as an Alabama fan, that might be frustrating. You might turn. You might start to find yourself booing. You might find yourself looking at old pictures of Nick Saban or whatever the case is. You might start regressing because they
looking at your phone.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, yeah. You don't start looking at all those trophies and banners hanging up there.
One other part,
it's easy to do that.
And one other part of this that I just mentally, there's no question, talent-wise and physically on the field, where the advantage is.
We got that. We're clear on that.
Alabama plays Tennessee next week. Like, you come off of that loss, and like I said, you look and you see the name South Carolina, you're like, But then Tennessee next week, you're like, all right, let's just get through this 11 a.m. kick, this team that we never have a problem with. Look, Nick Saban's not there to even create that narrative of, South Carolina beat Nick Saban. And
I'll say this. I said last week, I think Shane maybe buckled a little bit in the moment. Kalen DeBoer has never faced a moment like this. I know he's coached in big games, but
he's never had a loss like that.
But he's never coached in a place where the temperature is going to be this hot on him for this moment. Yes, I know the people in Washington care about their football. They go to games. I get it. But he's never done this before. And so this is going to be a different environment for Kalen DeBoer. It's going to be a little bit different. He's never coached in this type of environment before.
Yeah, he's never been criticized like this. Let's listen to criticism of Kalen DeBoer. This is from, again, Luke Robinson of Locked On Bama. He's been criticized for play calling. He's been criticized maybe for a loss, but he's never been criticized for something like this.
It's the most embarrassing loss in Alabama history. I don't even know where to start. I do know where to start. You know where I'm going to start? What person on this planet told Kalen DeBoer, you know what would be a good-looking shirt? That one you got on. What was that? Popping out with some schmedium crap that looked like it was a hand-me-down from Mike Price. What is he doing? I mean, look, it's one thing to have your team unprepared. Can you at least put on a shirt that makes you look like, hey, I got an idea what's going on? That shirt is the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. And I've seen the Seinfeld episode where the moths eat all of George Costanza's father's beachwear. It's the worst shirt I've ever seen. Don't ever wear it again. That's something you get from Fanatics when you spend $100. You get it for free. Take that thing off.
I'm sure he's been criticized for a lot of things in his life. Maybe, just maybe, his wife has criticized him for certain things he's worn. Probably never a podcast host that has ranted about his attire.
Will he wear a collared shirt on Saturday?
If he does this right, but it would be a sign that he is looking best out here. If he does this right, he's dressing up like Bear Bryant. If he does this at all right, he's dressing up like Bear Bryant. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the program. We'll laugh about that and close things out here. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, and you heard me mention just a little while ago, anywhere you live in this state, and we know certain areas were impacted by Hurricane Helene, anywhere you live that you've noticed roof damage, whether it's your business, whether it's your house, Mid-State Roofing is there to help you. They are the professionals, and for nearly 30 years, they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's that history that is your assurance that if you have any issues, that their professionals will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your your facility. Let's be honest, the key here is keeping you nice and dry, keeping your operation running. And whether it's a high-rise or a hospital, manufacturing or industrial, Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will do just that. Keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can give them a phone call, and they will have someone ready to take your call. 803-356-1919. If you've got a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. Let me ask you something. Might not be willing to admit it. Are tax troubles weighing you down? Is your business, or have you personally received one of those nasty notices from the IRS, and now you're just out there trying to travel and navigate the IRS maze by yourself? Don't do that. Contact John Ecton and his team. It starts with a free consultation. 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. They have a local team dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good. So whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence, Myrtle Beach, maybe you're in Augusta, maybe you're in Greenville, guess what? John Ecton and his team are ready to help you, but time is limited. You need to call today to start that free consultation. 803-771-9800. The Ecton Law Firm understands the challenges you're facing, and they're ready to help you. So call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 803-771-9800. Again, a reminder, 107.5 The Game, teaming up with the community partners. We are launching the Hurricane Helene relief effort for families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. Please join us in supporting families impacted by the recent disaster. The collection drive started yesterday. Today, we are out at Northside Baptist Church, 4347 Sunset Boulevard is where we will be today. That was yesterday. Wrong sheet here. I got too many sheets. Let me do this one more time. Move that one out of the way. Today, we will be at 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. in Lexington. We will also be at Brooklyn Northeast Church, 1203 Summit Parkway in Columbia. Again, that is today. It is the Hurricane Helene relief effort for families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg. If you can please donate non-perishable items such as canned foods, bottled waters, diapers, wipes, pet food, toiletries, and feminine hygiene products. It would all go to a great cause here, helping the families in Asheville, Greenville, and Spartanburg affected by Hurricane Helene. Again, today, 12 Springs Community Church, 5236 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington, and also Brooklyn Northeast Church, 1203 Summit Parkway in Columbia, South Carolina.
If there's a little extra motivation, that's something I added to the sheet, and I'll bring an updated one. Terry Ford is actually going to be at the Northeast location on Summit Parkway today from noon to 3. So if that encourages you to come between 9 and 3, or if that encourages you to come between 9 and noon or between 3 and 6, that might be the case too. But anyways, Terry will be out there today.
There you go. All right. Good deal on that. So please swing by today and donate. Also, by the way, if you're thinking, I can't make it today, that's all for tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be at Brooklyn Baptist Church, 1066 Sunset Boulevard. So another chance tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Brooklyn Baptist Church as well. We'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Also tomorrow, by the way, Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge, where if you think I'm holding on to the trophy for
it's just laziness. It's pure laziness.
It's stupidity.
Yeah.
Laziness is when you remember and you're just too tired to pick it up and carry it up 4 steps and out to the car. Yeah. This is just being moronic and forgetting every morning. There's a total difference on that.
Probably when you get home, you should write it on your hand, and then when you get home, just put it into the car. I don't think anyone's going to steal it out of the car.
In my defense, I have asked Jen twice to text me at night to remember to do that. And because guess what? Preston Thorne, you lost a point. You lost 2 points last week. Now 1 point behind Reggie Anderson.
Closing in.
All our goals are in front of us.
Oh, yeah, no, the goals are more than in front of you.
Yeah, I was just looking at what the typical scores were, and it seems like maybe we're a little bit lower scoring this year.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the winning scores usually comes in around 130-ish, and that could still happen if somebody gets hot at the end, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Talladega was a challenging race for many people, including the people who actually make money off of it and, are in the business. It was a challenging day.
You guys want to guess who I'm going to take tomorrow?
We already got that. We're good on that.
Go ahead, just remove Denny Hamlin for. Hey, the strategy's paying off. Look at the last 3 weeks. I've outscored all of y'all the last 3 weeks to.
And the part that's so maddening is, okay, I had Blaney. He was running in third, top 5 the entire race until things went south. Denny Hamlin sits in 32nd, and because 28 cars get in a wreck, he ends up making his way up and finishes in 10th. So that's why this is such an unpredictable. It's almost like March Madness.
And Bill's playing a blocker to me because he's kind of stole a point off the board from me by just coming up there and spoiling it for me.
Denny Hamlin is my pick. Go ahead, write it down.
Denny Hamlin, the ultimate whiner. So I can see why you pick him.
I'm 12 back of Reggie. It's a long shot. It's a long shot, very long shot, but
who knows? This is such a goofy season.
It could happen.
7 points would go a long way to at least putting me in some kind of contention. So we'll have that Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge tomorrow. So Brian Edwards will join us. We'll get you ready for some Thursday night football tomorrow. And we'll really kind of turn our attention, Preston, to some of the X's and O's. We did have a texter weigh in earlier. And said if South Carolina is going to beat Vanderbilt, they cannot attack them down the middle. Got to go to the perimeter and get away from the middle of the field with Alabama.
Well, it is part of their stated game plan. That's what Shane said. Maybe we'll bring that tomorrow about them actually being a thing. They want to attack the perimeter, and I do think they do attack the perimeter. They just don't attack the perimeter downfield.
Okay.
So we'll see what that means.
And that is going to be, we'll talk more about that about going downfield tomorrow. Or Saturday, but we will talk about that tomorrow. Something they did not even attempt to do on Saturday against Mississippi. So we'll have all that tomorrow. Brian Edwards of Vegas Insider will join us, and we'll do what we do. We'll cut up. We'll keep you laughing, keep you entertained.
Appreciate y'all listening.
Wear good T-shirts today. Don't have the guy from Locked on Bama out there harassing you for a bad T-shirt today. We appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.